like handles?
I don't have Instagram, by the way.
Okay.
I have,
Anybody
I have,
else?
I have LinkedIn.
Okay.
I have Facebook. But honestly, the best way to reach me is email, phone call.
All right, cool. Give me your number real quick before we start.
Sure, it's 410.
Send it in the chat. Send it on the text because we're live right now.
Okay, cool.
But honestly, the best way to reach me is email, phone.
All right, cool. Got it.
Before we start.
Sure, it's 410.
Send it in the chat. Send it on the text because we're live right now.
Okay, cool.
But honestly, the best way to reach. I'm getting feedback.
There we go.
You have to mute everybody.
Yeah, perfect.
There we go. Good to meet everybody. Good to see everybody. We're about to get started. Welcome to Growth and Goals. We are back for 2021. We have some very special guests with us, some guest speakers. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about PPP. And we're going to talk about how low-income families can get into places, high-income families can flip, get rental properties. We're going to touch on a bunch of topics. But we want you guys to have questions. Ask your questions. We are here to answer them. And don't be shy, y'all. You know, we're here. Keep in mind, everybody has a growth mindset here, and so should you. Know that you could do anything you want in life as long as you just work towards it. You can make it happen. And everybody here is a testament to having a growth mindset and being able to grow towards their goals. So without further ado, I'm gonna start introducing everybody. We have Alberto, who's here. We have Lissandro, and we have Dominic. So we're gonna start off with Alberto. He's gonna intro himself and give you guys a spiel and let you guys know what he's gonna talk about. So Alberto, take it away. Thank you for being here.
I don't hear Alberto.
How about now? Is that okay?
Yeah. Got you.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Well, my name is Alberto Estrella. I actually grew up, I'm Dominican. I grew up in the Bronx and all my life really. And I've worked in the financial services industry now for about 15 years. I worked at JP Morgan, Barclays, and a couple other bigger banks. And really, I recently started a company called Knowledge to Own. And what we do is we help make home ownership possible for millions of Americans who struggle to afford the down payment. On average, it takes on average 14 years for a person to save up for the traditional 20% down payment. So I'm going to talk about that later in this session. But really just wanted to get more about my background and kind of how I got started. So, you know, in my late 20s, I was looking for a condo. I wanted to buy it was always a dream for me to buy a home. And my first experience was very traumatic. I thought I had everything in order. I had all the paperwork done. I had all my, good credit. My work history was good. And I was actually just shy of I think it was $1,500 for the down payment. And I was working with Wells Fargo at the time. And they actually denied my loan application because I was short $1,500. I couldn't really get a gift letter or any money from a friend or a family because it will kind of violate some of the policies that the banks have. So luckily, I was able to recover from that. And a month later, I reapplied. I got my stuff in order, and I was successful in getting the loan. I bought my first condo. But what really happened in that moment was that I thought about, how often does this happen? How often do people get so close to buying a house and then they get denied or any denial reason? So I started looking it up, started doing some market research. And what I found out was that at the time, and even for a lot of people, I looked at my transaction and I was actually eligible for a $15,000 grant from Wells Fargo, a first-time home buyer credit, and that was never offered to me. So I started thinking, okay, I wonder if this happens a lot. And I just like I thought, thousands of people out there. You know, you go to a bank and you might get pre-approved, or you may not get approved, but you don't get approved for the wrong reason, right? So I think just understanding like what options are out there. Some lenders may not offer a particular program, but another lender does. So I really started thinking about solving this problem and giving people the knowledge and information that they need to sort of be, you know, to understand if you're mortgage ready or not. And, you know, for most people, even if you're not ready today, there are a lot of simple things you can do to get ready. And that's, you know, improving your credit, saving up a bit, and just improving your kind of profile so that the lender can see that you are ready to proceed. So I'm going to talk about that in a lot of detail, but really just to what the reason I'm here today and what I love doing for my company is bringing transparency information to people so that they know that there are several options out there to buying a home. And even if today is not the right day, 3 months, 6 months from now, you know, you could really get your stuff in order and make sure you're ready. And at the end of the day, you know, like it's buying a house is always the biggest purchase of your life, no matter what age, no matter what your circumstances is. So the more you prepare for that purchase, the more equipped you're going to be. And I always like to say that, generally speaking, right, owning is always going to be more financially beneficial to renting. So really thinking about it from that perspective and how you can improve your wealth over time by owning a home when it's right for you. So that is my bit.
Nice. Thank you so much, Alberto. Next, we're going to get into Lissandro. You're on mute.
That would help. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lissandro Kellis. I grew up actually in the Lower East Side. You know, lived there for many years. Went to the public school system down there. Went to actually elementary. I went to PS 20 for those that are familiar with the area, and spent a lot of time playing basketball. Played on different teams and things like that. And so, you know, went through the courses, went through high school, went to college, decided on studying finance. And I think that was related to just humble beginnings. And, you know, this idea that a lot of us don't understand how the financial system works. When I say a lot of us, I mean a lot of us minorities don't understand how the financial system works. And so that was very interesting to me. And I found that while I was in my undergrad, because originally I went in to study physical therapy. But that sort of didn't jive with my personality and what I wanted to do. So I took a couple courses in business, and then I said, okay, this makes sense. And so I got the degree in finance, and then after that, I ended up working for a mortgage lender. I worked for Ameriquest Mortgage, and I've done everything in mortgages from beginning to end, from processing to funding to closing to underwriting. And so I did underwriting, and I think that's pretty much where I stopped. I decided that the underwriting was something that was very interesting to me, to try to figure out how people can afford homes and getting them into homes and actually approving these deals. And so I did that for many years. And then after that, I left Ameriquest and I went to Washington Mutual, and I was an underwriter for Washington Mutual, who's no longer in business. They got bought out by Chase Bank. And then while I was doing that, then I also went out and I got a master's degree in organizational leadership. And so after I left the bank, because of everything that happened with the 2008 crash, 2008 crash, with the mortgages, with the subprime lending, I ended up working for the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation. I was working for the Bronx Borough President at the time. I was doing small business lending at that time. I started learning and I got certified as a small business lender. And so I was underwriting small business loans. And when I say small, I say anything under 5 million. And so I did that for many years, and then I left there and I went to Queens and I started running a program. I started running my own program for small businesses, an economic development, for an economic development financial institution. And I was running their program and lending to businesses in Southeast Queens. And then after I left there, then I am where I am now, which is at NDC, the National Development Council, where I am a portfolio manager. I also do some underwriting. I'm actively involved in the government program, the PPP program, which I'll get into later for those that are interested. And additionally, what I've recently started is I started to dabble in the into the real estate business down here in Maryland. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm making connections with other agents and other Hispanics that are in the business, whether it's in insurance or construction, and we're looking for ways to collaborate and work together. So that's a little bit about me. I'll share some other things as we go along. I think that that I, like Alberto, I think that I echo what he says. I think that it's critically important to own a home. I think that it's great to save up to own a home, but I think that you have to be very well prepared to own a home, because there's things that come up, and I'm sure that it'll come up later in the group, in the discussion. So with that, I'll leave it to Dominic.
Awesome. Dominic, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Do I have to press anything? Do you guys hear me?
Yep, hear you loud and clear.
Cool. Hey, I want to thank you guys for being here. I know how hard it is for everybody to take some time away from their families and their day, especially on a beautiful Saturday at 1 o'clock, which is a big commitment for all of us to be doing this for others. It's not so much for ourselves, it's for others. So I want to thank everybody that's on this chat and on this conference. It's big of you to do this, and it's really cool. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody else does too. So my name is Dominic Santiago. I grew up in the Lower East Side, 10th Street and Avenue, 12th Street and Avenue D. It wasn't easy growing up over there because there wasn't a lot of role models, but you work hard and you try to fight through it. Dad at 17, single mom, all the obstacles that are set in front of you not to succeed. But I pushed through it, went to school at night to get my bachelor's in economics and finance. I took a job at a bank in the mailroom, making like $17,000 a year. They paid for me to go to school. I went to night school, they paid for it, and I kept on growing within the bank. So when I walked into the bank, I was making like $17,000, $18,000 a year. And when I left, I was a senior vice president making $250,000 a year. I ended up opening my own company in 2003, which is a Dom Realty Group. And we specialize in buying old houses, fixing them and selling them. So I have an existing portfolio now, real estate portfolio in the millions. I don't know how much, because I don't count, which is kind of cool. But I started with $9,000. And one of the properties that I bought with that $9,000, I only paid like, I think $300,000 for. So put down 3%, that was $9,000 plus my closing cost. So out of pocket was like 12, and that property is probably worth like $900,000 to $1 million now. So that $9,000, $12,000 converted into a profit of around $700,000-$800,000. I used that equity to buy more properties, and I kept on buying and fixing houses. If anybody wants to verify who I am, check out my page, Dom Realty Group on Instagram. I just started social media around about 13 months ago because I didn't believe in social media. I was a little old fashioned, where you don't post all your business, but I kept on being encouraged to document everything that I'm working on. So we started the page around 13 months ago, and it's been pretty cool because I get an exposure um, of about 500,000 views per month. I'm just gonna go into my insights now and just give you a quick one. So my last 30 days on my exposure is my counts reached was 443,000 for the month in the last 30 days. And my profile visits are 10,280. So the reason I mentioned this is because to think that I only got onto social media around 13 months ago, and for me to be getting 443,000 impressions and a month is pretty wild, because if I multiply that by 12, you're looking at 4 to 5 million impressions a year. So if you're not using social media for any of your businesses, I highly suggest that you do it because it's so powerful. And to think that I only started like 13 months ago. But as you can, if you go on my page, you're gonna see we buy ugly houses. We'll take a small house that's 1,000 square feet and make it into 4,000 square feet. So 1,000 square feet is probably like a 1 or 2 bedroom, and then we'll make like 10 bedrooms, 5, 6 baths. We'll build 3, 4 family houses. But check it out, and I think you guys like it. And if you need anything, just reach out. I'm willing to help anybody that wants to learn this. And with a combination of what Alberto had mentioned, maybe with a combination of his services and my services, we can help you get into a property and get you some wealth and get you to start buying and selling houses, or buying a houses versus renting. So I hope that everybody on this panel could help you guys that are watching and that want to learn any of this stuff, get to where you need to be.
Amazing. Thank you guys for sharing with that. So one of the first questions we have is, I guess we could start with Alberto, where you could basically give us like the spiel on what we need to get started, because then we could gradually get into like kick it off how we get started, and then we go into Lissandro and then Dominic to help us, wrap it all up together in a bow. So Alberto, yeah, let us know how we could get started. Like, what are the first steps we should do, when we want to get into a home, or even think about purchasing a home for whatever purpose we want to use it for.
Absolutely. No, Lisandro was spot on when he said, I like the word he used of being prepared. Really, like I said, it's the biggest purchase of your life, no matter how old you are. So I think preparing yourself for that event is huge, because there's a lot of things, right? It's a stressful event. You have to understand your budget. What size house can you afford, right? Can you afford a $300,000 mortgage, a $500,000 mortgage? A lot of people usually start out with just going to find a real estate agent and going on Zillow, and they just go look at properties without even understanding what their budget is, right? And then you might fall in love with the wrong house. That's not a good idea, right? You want to kind of get a sense of like, it never hurts to go shopping around for a house, getting a feel for what the neighborhood that you like. There's nothing wrong with that. But then financially prepared, understanding, what the difference is, when you, although I did say that buying a home is more financially advantageous, right? When you're renting, you just have that one payment. When you are owning a home and you have a mortgage, not only do you have the mortgage payment, but you have insurance, homeowners insurance that you have to be accountable for. Sometimes there's condos or HOA fees. So a lot of the annual property tax is a big one, right? So understanding all of that is really good to just kind of get started, get prepared. Another thing I'd like to kind of point out to folks is that, when you go out there, you hear real estate agents or lenders, promotions, and you always hear this biggest myth. The biggest myth in the real estate market is that you need 20% down to buy a house. That is not true at all. You know, I think the average buyer closes on a home with about 6% down is like the latest metric. So there are home loan programs out there that are like where you could close with 100% financing sometimes. You could put 3% down. FHA is like one of the most popular loan programs, and it's 3.5% down on that. So that's something very important to know, because a lot of us, you know, we just don't have, you know, 100,000, 300,000 laying around, and with property prices going so high in many markets, you know, the down payment continues to be and will always continue to be an obstacle for folks. So it's good to kind of prepare from that sense, understanding like, okay, what are the loan options? You know, how much can I afford? And then, you know, am I ready? And then, you know, the other components that go into it is obviously your credit. And, you know, people kind of toss around terms like what's bad credit, what's fair, what's good, what's great, right? So really understanding that, you know, you could buy a credit should never be an obstacle. Yes, if you have, unless you have a major delinquency, like a bankruptcy on your credit file, you can always improve your credit to get mortgage ready for a lender. So it just takes a little bit of time, and it's always worth evaluating that. And then what credit, where credit comes in is understanding the interest rate that you qualify for. So if we use, like, let's say the national average, I think for a mortgage, a house right now is $300,000, give or take. If a $300,000 home, if you have good credit versus, well, let's call it fair credit let's say in the 600 range, lower 6 versus good to great and above 720, the difference on your monthly mortgage payment will probably be something like $200 a month, which is a big difference for a lot of people. You know, that's a utility bill, that's your cell phone bill. So it's really understanding that. And again, it goes to the preparedness piece, because the more you prepare, understand that, and you have some time to improve it before you close on the home, the more likely you are to get the best deal possible. And, you know, like, so I think we'll open it up to other folks, obviously, on the panel, but I wanted to say that, you know, you want to know all of your options. You take advice from real estate agents, you take advice from lenders, but always do your own research as well. And that's what we do at KTO Home. We try to kind of empower you with information you need to get started. And, you know, when you're using our service, which is free, we actually give you that kind of guidance, so you know exactly what the immediate next steps are for you to take.
Nice, thank you. So that's great. So, Lissandro, can you like piggyback on that and let us know, like, so he mentioned, okay, this is how you should be prepared with the mortgages and stuff like that. Can you just chime in real quick on what somebody will potentially need for their mortgages?
Absolutely. So he, Alberto is dead on that you should know exactly what you qualify for before you start looking at homes. I think that makes the buying experience that much better. And it kind of just, you know, puts to the side things that you probably shouldn't be looking at because you can't afford it or you don't qualify for it. And then you're going to get extremely frustrated looking at homes that you don't have the ability to purchase. So, you know, one of the things that you're going to need, obviously, you're going to need credit. Your credit score has to be somewhat decent. You're going to need pay stubs. You're going to need, you know, a good rental history. They're going to need verification of rent of some sort, verification of employment. Those are all things that you're going to need. So as you begin to think about applying for a mortgage and seeing what you qualify for, a pre-qualification, you're going to need these documents. Your tax returns, you need to have those handy. So I would, if you're considering purchasing, I would begin to look at what you have as far as your financial documents and where you're keeping them, and making sure that you keep that in a safe place where you can easily access it. as you begin to apply to lenders. One of the things I would say is that, I don't. To me, you can go either way. There's two options. You can go to a mortgage broker, or you can go straight to a bank. And the differences are, fairly simple. If you go to Chase, you're going to get reviewed by Chase on its own, right? And whatever programs they have available to you. If you go to a mortgage broker, they have the ability to just shop around and look at different options for you, see which lender is going to provide the better program for you. And also, I would say my preference has always been to get a fixed rate. So if you're out there looking, I would say stick to the fixed rate. I don't want anybody getting burned with an adjustable, thinking that you're going to be able to refi before that time, before the adjustable period. A lot of people get burned by that. The market changes right now with the seller's market. Everybody's, there's low rates out there. You can borrow money at low rates, but and they'll tell you, if you get an adjustable rate, it could be even lower. But at the same time, in 2 years, maybe you won't be able to get out of that mortgage, and you won't be able to get out of that program that you're in. So I always like to opt for the fixed rate. If you could afford, 30, great. If you could afford 20, great. But as you begin to think about what you want to do with purchasing a home, always remember that it's critically important to have an emergency fund. There's other expenses that are going to come into play, as Alberto mentioned. Your HVAC system could go bad. Your boiler could go bad. There could be a leak. You may have to change your roof. So these are things that you need to be aware of before you get into purchasing a home, because the last thing you want to do is buy a home, borrow money, and then have to get into debt in order to fix the problem that you have, because there's no other way around it. You're going to have to borrow to fix the problem if you don't have the money, because it has to get fixed. It's your home. It's where you live. It's where your family lives. And so I would say, on top of saving up for the down payment, make sure you have an emergency fund. Make sure you're controlling your expenses. Make sure you have a budget. Make sure you don't overspend. Remember, there's a lot of things financially that you have to look into. And I start to deviate because I love finance so much, and I love, personal finance and investing, and, but one of the things I would say is make sure you have a budget. Remember that you also have to put money for retirement. You also have to save for retirement. So these are all these things should be included in your budget, because they're critically important to your overall financial success. And I'll pass that on to Dominic now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alessandro. That's a perfect lead into Dom.
Great point, Alberto and Alessandro. You hit it right on the money on all those pointers. But even before you get to all, that level, what I want to tell a lot of the viewers is, have faith. A lot of faith. Drive around the areas that you love and that you envision, where you want to live. I remember when I used to live downtown in the projects, I would drive around different neighborhoods, and I would envision my family, in certain neighborhoods. I was, praying that, that I wanted to live in a house like that or in a neighborhood like that for my kids. So the other thing is, surround yourself with positive people. Don't ask someone that doesn't own a home for advice on homes, because they'll be like, nah, I don't want to fix anything, versus so they really can't tell you about home ownership or the benefits of home ownership, because they're not homeowners or property owners. So the same thing with a business. If you want to open up a business, don't ask somebody that doesn't own a business. Ask business owners. The other thing that I'm a big believer is, sometimes I reach out to some of my friends and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And, they look good. They got the Jordans and they got Gucci and Cartier and all of that stuff, and they're paying, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month in rent, and then they have nice cars, and so their priorities are are misaligned. And I'm not against the like name brands. I have name brands, and I have high-end cars and I have Rolexes and all that other stuff, but I bought properties first. So your goal is to buy real estate assets, you want to buy businesses, you want to buy real estate, and then once you get your house and once you get some, a real estate portfolio, then go out and buy whatever you want. I'll give you an example. So if you buy an investment property that's a 2-3 family house that's bringing in like 4 G's, right, 4,000, and your mortgage is say 3,000. I'm just using this as an example. You have $1,000 a month in profits. So what I always tell people is, if you want to buy a car, Mercedes, BMW, whatever you want to buy, right? So you buy your investment property first. Your rental income is going to be like 4,000. Your mortgage is going to be 3,000. So you're going to make $1,000 a month profits. So with that $1,000, you buy your Mercedes or BMW, and that car is going to be free. So I think I have a car now. I think my payments are like $700-800, and my insurance is like $200, so it's $1,000 a month. But I don't pay for it because I bought an investment property that's generating over $1,000 a month in profit. So I don't have to work for that car. I wake up in the morning and I don't worry about my car payments. I pick up the rental income, I pay the mortgage, and then what's left over, I use that for my car. And if you do the same thing with 5, 6, 7, 8 properties, and each one is generating $1,000 a month, you're bringing in $6, 7, 8, $9,000 a month, right? So it depends how much money you want. So if you want to make $5,000 a month from rental income, you pick up 4 or 5 properties. I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight. It takes a little while to build a portfolio, but if you're young, 20, 25, 30, 35, you set yourself up with a 5-year plan that you want 5 properties. I think 5 properties can generate at least $5,000 a month. And if you pick up 5 properties and you're making $5,000 a month, that's like a pension plan at a very early age. A lot of people have to work, till they're 55, 60, 65 years old to generate $4,000 or $5,000 a month. I think I was able to do that in my early 30s. I was picking up like $7,000, $8,000 a month, and it was pretty cool because I'm 30 something years old and I'm generating $7,000, $8,000 a month. And I think I was home like on a Monday afternoon, and my neighbor started asking me, where do you work? Where are you working at? And I'm like, I got real estate. I got, investment properties. And they were like a little skeptical, right? Because I had a big house and I had nice cars, and I didn't go to work. I would go to check out my properties, pick up a little rental income, and then come right back. So it was kind of cool and weird to be doing that, in my mid 30s. But it's real. One of the things that I suggest everybody to do is, on YouTube, there's a lot of free information. This is one that I really love, and you guys all know who he is, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It talks about, buying assets and not buying luxuries and not buying any of that stuff. I love Anthony Robbins, the giant within. He just motivates you to do well and to stay positive under all circumstances. Those are just 2 guys that I absolutely love, and just listen to different people to motivate you to continue to do well and to have faith and to grow and to know that, you can be poor. You could come from a poor family. You could come from a poor neighborhood and become rich, be a millionaire. It's not that hard to become a millionaire anymore. Now, if you're a millionaire, it's not that impressive. I'm not impressed anymore by millionaires because obviously there's billionaires everywhere now. So like $1 million or 2 million or even $5 million is not that much money. So, you guys, the younger generation, you guys are young, you guys know all the new stuff, all the ins and out. if you have any ideas, bring them to business owners or guys that have a little bit of money. Maybe they can help you develop it and bring it to the market and help you get to the next level, because you guys have all the new stuff and all the new ideas. All the old guys are doing all the old stuff, and so bring it to people that can help you bring it to the next level, even if you don't have the money. I'll give you an example. You can find the property, and if it's an unbelievable deal, you could bring it to anybody that has a little bit of money, and they can buy it and then give you a percentage of the profits, or you could work it out with them, whichever way you want. But has to be somebody that you trust, and I recommend that you write up a contract so that you could protect yourself, because you don't want to bring a $500,000 deal to a buyer, then you could get it for like 100 or 200 with a $300,000 profits. And then, they were supposed to give you $50,000 or $100,000, and then they don't take care of you the way they're supposed to. So make sure you have contracts, make sure you get an attorney that's going to protect you. And if you've never experienced working with an attorney, there's a bunch of young attorneys that are Spanish, that are really cool, that would love to work with young people. If you want, I'll give you a list of like a couple of different attorneys that will help you, Puerto Rican, Dominican, that'll help you for your real estate transactions. And again, you don't need to have money to come into this business. All you have to do is have faith, and find the deals. Your goal is to find ugly houses that are undervalued, and everything else will come into place.
So that's perfect. That leads right into one of our questions from one of our good guys, David Soto. In rental properties, would you recommend standard long-term rentals or like an Airbnb?
Well, I have both, and if you guys, whenever you go on to check out my other one of my pages is Dom Realty Group on Insta, and the other one is PR Beach Rentals on Insta as well. I do beach rentals in Puerto Rico. The problem with the Airbnb is that it goes up and down. So you have high season and then you have low season. So I'll give you some numbers. Like my high season, I was probably doing around $30,000 a month in rentals. And then when this COVID hit, I went down to zero. And it's been zero for like the last, 10, 11 months. And I think I was losing 15, 20,000 a month, something wild like that. But, and then that was everywhere. That was New York City, that was Miami. Everybody that had Airbnbs kind of suffered a little bit, not a little bit, a lot. So to me, I think that the Airbnb is a little riskier. What I love right now are the 2 to 4 families. Those are cool. You could always rent those, to Section 8. You could rent those you could take one unit, you could rent the other unit to your brother, your cousins, somebody that's going to be responsible and paying you the rent. But there are great opportunities on both sides. But at first I would just concentrate on the 2 to 4 families and stay away from the Airbnbs.
Nice. Another question we have pertaining to rentals. Do you think it's a good time to buy a rental property? Or like you said, to do like a multi-family house where you live in it and you rent out the other units? Or is it more beneficial to like stay where you're at right now and use your first time homeowner to buy like just a rental that you're going to use specifically for renting out or whatever you need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I would use the FHA, like Alberto had mentioned, you could get that with 3.5 down. You could get like a 2 to 4 family, get like a 2 to 4 family. But the only thing that's going on right now is that it's very expensive. Houses that were going for 250, like 2-3 years ago, and now going for 500. So I would wait right now and just keep looking until the markets come down a little bit, because they're very expensive. The other thing I would do is continue to look for houses. Like if you see, don't buy like a beautiful house, because you're going to pay full retail. If it's worth 500, you're going to pay 500. So what I would do is I always recommend try to buy an ugly house that looks ugly, that the grass is overgrown, that you need new bathrooms and new flooring. You could probably get that for like 250, 300. Some older guy that hasn't done anything to the property for a long time. And then you could get like, and Alberto could tell you about it. It's called the 203K loan, where they give you the money for the purchase and for the renovations. And then, if you buy it for say 300 and you spend 50, 60,000, you're into it for 350, 360, but it'll be worth like 500. So you can make $140,000. So the only thing is that those are hard to find, and you just have to look for them, and you have to find them. So it's like finding, a piece of gold. So one of the things that I suggest that you do is, when you're driving around the neighborhoods that you like, if you see an ugly house, maybe put a little note in the mailbox, hi, sorry to bother you. I'm looking to buy a house in the area. Are you interested in selling? Please call me. And then, what happens is, if you leave a few of those notes, eventually you'll get a call from a seller that say, hey, I'm interested in the house. And, you get an appraisal, and then that's when your mortgage broker will go out and make sure that you have the qualifications for it. They do an appraisal. You can get an inspection report to see how good or bad the property is, and then you do your research before you close on the deal. But that's the way to approach it. But you just have to find either ugly houses or really small houses, in bad, in good neighborhoods, and then you make the improvements in order for you to pick up the equity.
So, Alberto, I want to buy a house, right? My credit's not the greatest. I'm not making a ton of money, but I could afford like maybe potentially $1,000 a month to get into a house. Is that something that is realistic? Can that happen?
Yeah, let's dissect what you said, right? The employment is one thing, right? So don't ever sort of abandon home ownership because you don't think you make enough. Dominic was spot on by saying that, there's nothing wrong with going shopping around, looking at a neighborhood that you like. So if we take your statement, the first thing that lenders look for is, they want to see that you've been working for 2 years, 24 consecutive payments income that you're receiving, right? Lenders don't like to see gaps in employment. So that's more important than what you're actually making, right? Credit, again, if your credit is on the fair side, let's say let's bring out a couple of examples, right? If your credit score is an FHA loan, the minimum credit score is actually 585, I believe, right now. A conventional loan, even 3% down, that's more on the 620 to 640, depending on the program. So there are sort of like some of starting points that if you kind of know what your credit score is, and let's say if your credit score is below 585, the first number I mentioned, then okay, what is my gap? If it's 550, then you need like 35 more points to get there. So, and then when it comes to the income itself, that's when it comes, if you want to stay in the area you live in, check, use Zillow or use StreetEasy. You want one of those platforms so you can see what's on the market. And there's a lot of like qualification tools that you can kind of see, like for this, you click on those in Zillow, you click on a home, you put in some information like what your offer would be, hypothetical, how much you could put down, and it'll tell you like what that mortgage is, and then you can calculate that into a monthly payment. So when it comes to that, right, you should never be sort of deterred because you think you don't make enough. That you might be in an expensive area, so it might be more like, okay, should I look at another? I'm in New York. I'm in Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn is insanely expensive now, so I'm actually looking to buy another home in New Jersey now, and so I'm looking at, so maybe expanding your map is where that takes you. So you have to start looking at all your options, right? And it's really, I think my best advice in that scenario is to look at the local market you're in or where you're interested. If it seems expensive, then expand your search if you could, right? it depends on your family situation, your work situation. Now with COVID, for many people who have that luxury or that flexibility, employers are being more flexible on where you can work, right? So I think it's a big opportunity for people to sort of open up and think about where they're willing to live, especially if you're able to work from home in some cases. It just gives you more options and gives you more flexibility. That's really, for me, it comes down to this a lot. Like, when you're buying, you want to be in control. You want to have the options. So make those options happen. Don't get stuck by what someone might tell you. It might be wrong advice, or they may be making assumptions. So like Dominic said earlier, like, dream and have faith. Do not get discouraged. Just think about, explore the different options that you have, because there are several.
Amazing. So we're talking about FHA loans, conventional loans. Here at the Growth and Goals Mindset, we got a lot of entrepreneurs, right? We got a lot of small business owners. So a lot of them could use certain loans to pay for property, or, to help themselves during COVID. So Lissandro, right? The big thing right now is the PPP loan, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurs on here, 1099 people who are looking like to take advantage of the PPP loan to make up what they lost. Like, you have any advice for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I think that the first round of PPP was extremely difficult to get into, to try to borrow, simply because all the big businesses were the only ones really being accepted by the banks, and the banks were not looking at the little guys. That has changed now for the second round, and now I would say this is probably the third round, because they just so the program was going to sunset on the 31st of this month. They've just extended it. But what they've done also is that 1099 employees, sole proprietors, single member LLCs, or LLCs with employees can also come and borrow from the PPP program. Not only that, but what they've done is that instead of allowing you to use your net on your Schedule C, which is, I think it's line 31, the government's allowing you to use line 7, which is extremely beneficial for the sole proprietor, because what happens is if you go down to line 31 of your Schedule C, and that number dwindles down after you've taken out all your expenses, and you're left with $7,000 or $5,000, well, your multiplier is really only 2.5, so it's not going to be a large loan. However, if your line 7, which is your gross sales line, is up to a max of 100, which is what they'll do, you can get $20,833 as a PPP loan. And please understand that that money is forgivable as long as you use it in accordance to the program, which is to pay salaries. 60% should be used to pay salaries, which in essence, if you're a sole proprietor, you're paying yourself, and you can evidence that in your bank statement. When it comes to forgiveness, the entire loan will be forgiven. So this is a great opportunity for sole proprietors. And I think that what happens is that the banks are not very forthcoming with the information. They're not great at helping sole proprietors. So I would focus on CDFIs that are working with the program, with the PPP program, or you can come to organizations like us, NDC, and there are others. I can guarantee you that when you come to us, you're going to get a call. You're going to get a live person on the other line. If you send an email, someone's going to respond. And I get that all the time with different businesses. They're amazed that they call me and I answer the phone, or I return their call when they leave a voicemail, which is unheard of with the big banks, because they just don't. Yeah, you leave a message, they don't call back. So what I would say is, if you're interested in a PPP loan, I could put the link in the chat, and you're more than welcome to apply with our organization. But what I would say is, you need your most recent tax return, should be 2019 or 2020. You need a driver's license. If you have employees, you need 940, 941s. You need your incorporation documents if you're incorporated. If you're not incorporated, that's perfectly fine. If you're 1099, then that's perfectly fine. And then you need a bank statement from February 2020 to evidence that you were in business at the beginning of the year. That's showing transactions, they're showing, deposits going into the account. Simply, that is all you need. And you can have a loan in 2 to 3 weeks. It's really out there for you. And the great thing is it's forgivable. So I would encourage every sole proprietor, every LLC to try to get a PPP loan. In addition to that, the PPP program is also open to nonprofit organizations. So nonprofit organizations can also take advantage of this program.
Nice. Does anybody have any other questions? Going back to PPP, anything like that? All right.
Well, I will want to.
What
Go ahead. I was just going to add a little bit of color to what Lisandro said. Being an entrepreneur myself with a small business, he's definitely take his recommendation, because working with the big guys like Chase, they're more tailored to like the bigger firms. So I definitely want to. I've had negative experiences working on a PPP loan with like Chase and other big banks. So it's definitely more encouraged to work with someone more niche, like Lisandro mentioned. So definitely wanted to add to that as my own personal experience, unfortunately. Yeah.
Nice. So we got another question. This one's going back to real estate. Troy wants to know, so he's looking into buying his first investment property, either New York or New Jersey. Are there any specific areas that you recommend, like this is where you're going to get the best bang for your buck?
Is that question for me?
Whoever can answer it.
Yeah, so
you got expert.
First of all, I wouldn't buy anything in New York. You got Mario Cuomo, you got de Blasio. Those guys are, anti-business owners, property owners. They're making it really rough for everybody. You get a better value in New Jersey. Like, Alberto said he lives in Brooklyn and he has some properties in Brooklyn, but he's looking to do something in New Jersey. Alberto, smart of you. But New Jersey, you can get like a really nice property, good, front yard, backyard, throw in a swimming pool if you wanted to, and you're not that far from New York City. The government, the local government is business friendly, property owner friendly. School system is a little bit better. So you got to look at all that stuff. And there's parking. There's no parking in New York City. You know what I mean? So I like New Jersey. I just expanded my area to Connecticut. I just bought a four units and 2 storefronts for like, I don't know, something crazy for like $185,000. I got a Boost Mobile store that rents from me. I got a grocery store that rents for me, and I got 4 apartments. I only paid $185,000 for that. In New York City, that'll be like a couple of $1 million. So expand the areas so you don't have to, stay in New York. Take a ride and go check out different areas. And then one of the other things that one of the guys had asked was, hey, my budget is $1,000, a month. You could combine that with somebody else. So for instance, if you bought that with your brother or your sister or your cousin or whoever, right? And you can throw in $1,000 and he could throw in $1,000, that's $2,000. There's a lot of houses that have a basement that are nice that you could make into like a beautiful apartment. And then you guys one family could take 1 unit, and then the other one could take the other unit. And then you have houses that have basements, first floor and attic, or a second floor. So you just be smart about the division of the property. And I'm starting to see that the daughter will buy a house with the mom and the dad, or brother and sisters will buy a house together. And then that goes back down to the down payment, right? So if you have a $500,000 house and your down payment is 3.5%, that's like 15,000, 16,000. You could kick in 8. The other person could kick in 8. You guys own the deal 50-50. Or if you only have 5 and they have 10, then, obviously The person that put in the 10 has a little bit more than you, but you still get the deal and you participated, and it's only going to be temporarily until you continue to make more money or grow, and then you guys could sell the property, split the the profits, or one person can buy the other person out in the future, but you could cut it up in different ways. But don't think that you have to do this by yourself. You could buy it with somebody, could be your best friend, and you guys could do it together. So it's only 3.5% down. So on a $500,000 deal, it's only $15,000. It's not that much. Take your tax return money and use that for a down payment.
Or use your PPP. No.
Yeah, if you got 5 kids, you're good. You got your down payment right there.
We got another question for Alessandro with the PPP loans. So if you incorporated your business in April 2020, do you qualify for a PPP loan?
The answer is no, because they want to make sure that the business has been in existence prior to that February 2020 date, and they want to make sure that it's operational.
So let's say this individual was still doing like 1099 work prior to forming their business.
Okay.
Would that be like an exception that they could jump on?
They would be able to qualify under sole proprietor using the fact that they were a 1099 individual, sole proprietor. Essentially, they incorporated after the fact. I see what's happening. Yeah, it would certainly qualify because they were active before that February 2020 date. What they would need is a personal bank statement for February 2020, evidencing that they were in business. And that income was coming into the account. And then you would use the 2019 tax return, which would be a Schedule C on that tax return as well.
Perfect. So we got a great question. So if I'm an Uber driver, right, or a Lyft driver, and I'm doing anything of that nature, and I've been doing it for the past 2-3 years, do I qualify for a PPP loan?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that would be like under the sole proprietor?
That's correct. Yeah, because what they're going to file is a Schedule C on their tax return. It's all they're an IC, they're an independent contractor for Lyft and for Uber. So that would file a Schedule C on their personal 1040 tax return. Nice.
All right. Jumping back into the real estate, right? This is a question for everybody. A lot of these real estate questions are just we're throwing up softballs right now. So I like this house. I want to flip it potentially. How do I go about finding a contractor who's not going to rip me off and make sure, that everything's going to get done on time or close to on time, and I'm not going to really go too far over budget? I know things happen, but what are some of the things or some of the steps I could take to make sure I'm not getting got?
So I'm going to jump in and answer that question because I do a lot of construction, and then you guys can add to it. So, before you do any deal, right, you should be like visiting different construction sites. So if you see somebody that's renovating an exterior of a home or an interior of a home, walk in and introduce yourself and get to know who the electrician is, who the plumber is. It's like window shopping. You kind of want to window shop this whole thing, which is even before you buy a house or even before you buy the house that you want in the neighborhood that you dream about. And then after that, just start window shopping your electrician, your plumber. Hey, could I have your number? Could I have the plumber's number? Could I have the sheetrock guy, the bathroom guys? And then you want to start building, your network of people that are going to be able to help you once you find your house or your dream house or your ugly house. You're going to have 2-3 plumbers, 2-3 electricians. Just build them, your portfolio of networks. And then the other thing is, when you're going to do some work, buy the materials yourself, right? So you go to Home Depot with the contractor, you buy whatever you want. And then if he's going to charge you, say, $3,000, let's just use that as an example, you give him $1,000 up front. And then as he's doing some work, you give him another 1,000, and then when he finishes, and then you give him the last 1,000. So if he's going to charge you $3,000, don't give him $3,000 and then you never see the guy again. You could give it to him, little by little until the job is completed.
Nice. Anybody else have any recommendations or experience in that?
Yeah, I mean, not only specific to, I'll give just a general tip, like not just specific to the construction, but you're always going to, on a real estate deal, you're always going to work with a team. You're going to have your lender, you're going to have your real estate professional. And one of the most important people on your team is actually a lawyer, whether it's an investment property or it's for your primary residence. You always don't ever sign anything without, a lawyer's review, right? If it doesn't look right to you, it's probably not, you always want to have a legal opinion before you sign anything. So, and with any real estate deal, there's always lawyers on both sides that get involved anyway. So always, as a caution, always work with, make sure you have legal representation on any deal.
So I'm looking for a mortgage, right? I want to get the best rates, obviously. And I want to work with people who are going to help me through the process. Do you recommend that I go through my personal bank, or do you recommend like I go to like a loan or mortgage company that's going to like shuffle through all the mortgages, all the companies that are going to give me mortgages for the best rates? Like which would be like more beneficial to the buyer?
Yeah, I mean, Lisandro mentioned it earlier. You could use, here's like the pros and cons, if you will. So if you use a bank, let's start with the bank. The bigger banks, and even within bank, that's such a broad term, right? You have your traditional brick and mortar Chase, Citibank, then you have your credit union. So it's very specialized, it's very local, and they have very specific programs that they're going to offer you. And they're only going to offer you what they can sell, right? What they can underwrite. So the good thing is that the larger banks tend to have all else being equal, they tend to have really good interest rates, right? But they don't always have the best loan options for you necessarily in terms of like down payment financing in some cases. So that's where like a mortgage broker, Lisandro mentioned, and maybe he could speak to a little bit more, is, they'll kind of shop around more for you. It's more personalized. They'll give you more of what's the broader market. So think about it. If you go to an institution, they're only going to sell you what that institution sells. If you go to like a mortgage broker, or you do your own research even online, right? That's where you're opening up the sort of the availability, and then you can see for yourself how there are multiple ways that you can buy this potential house that you're looking at. So, I would never tell someone, first of all, you should never go to, even if you go to one bank and they tell you, okay, you're good, you're pre-approved, you're good to go, get a second opinion, just like a doctor, right? Like it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion, because you never know what another person has to offer, another business has to offer. And it's worth shopping around, especially when you're gonna make an investment like a home.
Nice. Lisandro, you have any tips onto that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Alberto. I think that that you certainly want to shop around. I would say first things first, go on the internet, start doing your own research, start reading, see what's available. I equate it to when I was younger, growing up in the Lower East Side, when I wanted a pair of Jordans or whatever the sneaker was at the time, there were a number of sneaker stores. And I would go from one to the next and see which one would offer me the best deal. This is no different. You go out and buy a car, same concept here. This is going to be the biggest purchase probably of your life. So you want to do your research. You want to see what's available. And, I think part of me, I like both options, but part of me likes a little bit more the mortgage broker, simply because they're able to just look at a wide variety of programs and see which one fits the best to what your financing needs are. So for me, I like that better. That's not to say that I wouldn't go to a Chase or go to Bank of America, if the program is right. Like I said, research, read as much as possible, and investigate.
Nice. We got another good question. FHA programs offer 3.5%, but how can you share how much people really for closing costs? Like, how can you anticipate closing costs?
Oh, yes. Well, so closing costs, it's usually like it's really local. So it's usually like 1 to as much as like 3% of the purchase price on average. So that really varies, state by state and community by community. So, what goes into that, if you kind of have a sense of what your purchase price is, you could take like, probably the easiest number is to take 2% of that, and that will be like your anticipated closing costs for the transaction.
Well, just to add to that, so let's just use a $500,000 purchase and a 3% closing cost. That's $15,000. You can have the seller pay for that. So when you submit your contract, you say seller to contribute 3% towards closing costs, so you don't have to worry about your closing costs. So you put down your 3.5% or whatever your down payment is going to be, and then in the contract you put in seller to pay closing costs, and then you only have to worry about your down payment. Obviously the seller has to agree. Sometimes they'll just take the whole thing, and then sometimes you got to negotiate where they say instead of the price being 300, you got to bring it up to say 310, and then they'll give you 10 back towards closing. So you can finance your closing costs. Don't worry about your closing costs. Just worry about your down payment, and also worry about getting a really good deal. So if you're buying a deal for 300,000, hopefully it's worth 350 or 400,000. So don't worry about your closing cost.
So I'm looking to flip, right? I found a nice place over in Newark. So it's a fixer-upper. Somebody recommended I talked to a hard money lender to help me with the construction. Can you guys elaborate on that?
Yeah, like hard money, we use a lot of hard money, but it's just that they're hard money. These guys are tough. They're very expensive. The down payments are 25, 30%. The rates are high. The closing costs are really high. If you don't get out of the deal within a year, the penalties are really high. The interest rates are really high. So that's for really sophisticated investors. It's not, for first-time home buyers or people that are not knowledgeable about the business. I highly recommend that you don't use a hard money when you start out in the business, because they are hard money guys, and they're tough, and you can lose a lot of money. Don't use hard money at first.
That's great advice. So somebody asked a great question. So they're looking into buying property, right? But they don't necessarily want a house. They're looking into a condo, a townhouse, or a co-op. They want to know what's their best bet as a starter investment property out of those type of real estate ventures.
It's whatever you can afford, right? So, whatever fits your budget, going back to what Alberto mentioned, right? You want to find something within your budget. So if you like the unit and it's equivalent to your rental income, then take it, because you're going to get some tax benefits. So even if your payment is exactly the same or a little bit more than your current rental income, when you back out your tax benefits, it's a benefit to you. Plus you're building equity. So whatever you can afford, don't go over your head.
Oh, we got a great question on YouTube Live. Any advice on wanting to own a rental property but have real fears on tenant issues, like not paying rent, the nightmare renter, ruining the property? Like, have you guys had any experience with that, and what did you guys do to overcome that?
Yeah, I'm just going to add on that. I think I have about 60, 70 units now. sometimes when you buy a property and they have an existing tenants, it's tough because you don't know them. But when you rent out the unit, it's kind of cool because you can check their credit, ask them for pay stubs, you interview them. We even go as far as going to their existing home now to do like home inspections, because I don't want to spend $200,000 on a renovation and then I bring somebody into one of my properties and they destroy it. So I've been doing home inspections, but it's been challenging these days because you got the CDC implemented a non-eviction. So a tenant can go into a property now and not pay you rent for 6 months to a year. It's going on 12, 13 months. And then there's going to be a backlog. So by the time you get in front of the judge, so somebody can be in your property for 2-3 years before you can vacate them, and that can hurt you, with your income and your profits, and even you being able to cover your mortgage. So currently there are some serious issues with tenants, and I've been hearing people, like, instead of picking up the rental income, they'll give them the tenant will give them a flyer, and it'll say something like, "God loves you. Hope you and your family are great during the CDC, during this whole COVID situation." And they're taking advantage that there's no foreclosures in the judicial system. So it can be scary and it can be challenging, but just communicate with whoever you're going to be buying the property with, or the tenants, and work it out. You don't want them to take advantage. So you can't be too hard and you can't be too soft. You got to be somewhere in the middle in order to be able to collect your rents.
So staying on that topic, are there services I could hire to do that for me if I don't want to have to deal with the tenant or just manage that? Like, is there like a remote landlord or landlord service that I can hire?
Yeah, we get physical sometimes. We can go. No, I'm kidding. I'll take a toilet and a kitchen. Like, you can stay, but you're not gonna have a kitchen or a toilet. No, but that was a joke. But yeah, I mean, one of the benefits that we have is that we could talk to our people, and the goal is to work it out. So if a tenant is not going to pay you, you go in and you're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And you can tell if they're taking, if they're BSing you or they're not BSing you. So if it's our own people, they know that they're not going to be able to pass that on to you. But if it's a corporation, they're like, we don't know the corporation, so they're not going to pay you. But it doesn't happen that often with a one-on-one, and it hasn't happened to me. The most that I've experienced somebody taking advantage is like maybe 2-3 months because they lost a job. And then what I would do is say, "Hey, you don't owe me anything. If you can leave by the 1st, and I'll give you 500 or I'll give you 1,000 to leave." So not only did they not pay me for 2 or 3 months, I'll give them $1,000 for them to move out. And then they're happy because I usually tell them, don't worry about what you owe me. Plus, I'm going to give you 500 or 1,000 for you to move out. And then they're cool with that. And I usually tell them, "Hey, when you get better, if you need another apartment, just reach out to me. I'll get you another apartment," because sometimes we do lose jobs and we do go into financial hardships. But the goal is to communicate and try to work it out with the tenants.
I'm sorry, froze up there. There we go. We're back. Thank you. That was amazing. So Lissandro, so somebody just asked. So they do have their 1099s and they do get recurring income, but they don't have a business bank account. Can they still use their personal account?
Yes, they can, because they're considered they're considered a independent contractor. So the idea is that independent contractors more than likely will not have a business bank statement because they're not incorporated. what you see is two things. You have folks that are incorporated, and then you have folks that use a DBA. And sometimes they have their personal name on the bank statement, and then it says DBA ABC Carpet or something like that, just for the sake of using an example. But you can certainly use your personal bank statement to apply.
So if I have my personal bank statement and I get the PPP loan, how do I prove that I was paying myself if the money's already in my personal account?
You have to write yourself a check. As silly as that sounds, you you have to write yourself a check and show that the money was being used, for the purposes of providing evidence. Obviously, they're going to see that the money was used because it went into the account and it came out. So you would provide bank statements to show that happening. But what I've had some borrowers do is that when it's a business bank account, they'll write themselves a check and deposit it on the personal side to show that happening. For an IC, they would just need to show the use of that cash and evidence of what it was used for, whether it was to pay, personal expenses, rent, whatever the case may be. You were buying something for your business. You used the example prior, a Lyft or an Uber driver, maybe they needed an oil change, new tires, whatever the case is. That's evidence of how that money was used for that business, if you will.
So you mentioned writing itself a check. Can a person wire themselves the money or Zelle themselves the money and show that as a record of payment, or Cash App themselves the money?
Yeah, you can use that, as long as, again, if it's a business bank statement, yes, going to a personal. If it's a personal account for an IC, I'm using the example of an Uber driver or Lyft driver, then you would just have to show that money was used for, again, personal expenses, rent, things of that nature, just basically living expenses when it comes time to forgiveness.
Nice. So like you said, like an Uber driver, or like, let's say an artist, like paying for paint or something like that, like those will all be qualified expenses for the PPP forgiveness, right? Correct?
Yes. So 60% for their own, for payroll, and then the other 40% you can use as needed for the business.
Nice. So at this point, this is where oh, you was muted, Lissandro.
I wasn't muted. I just muted now because you were going to go into something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, this is where we break into the gem section. So we ask you guys, like, in the field you guys are really, really good at, right? What are 3 gems for people to be ultra successful into getting into your field? And like let's say, for example, Alberto, right? People want to get into your field. They want to do what you do, or they want to like get a loan or get into a property. What are 3 gems you could give people to help them get into your position and to be successful when approaching you?
Absolutely. The first thing is not something that you put on your resume or anything, but it's really about passion, right? When you look at stories of entrepreneurs and people who start their business, you don't really start something that you don't have a personal story or a personal connection to, right? So you really have to be passionate about what you do. And there's always, most people have a really great backstory, and they're really passionate or driven by a personal experience, like I said. So I think that's like the key ingredient to working on something, because working on your business, building a product, when you're grinding out, that passion is what kind of keeps you going and makes it grow, right? If you're doing something that you've never done before and you're just doing it for the money, you're not going to get very far. Yeah, you can make some money for a short amount of time, but eventually money goes away and you're not in it for the profits per se. You're doing it because there's an underlying passion there. In terms of, kind of like a nugget for people who are we use the term, I think, first-time home buyer here. And what that really means is, just in case there are people who have bought a home before or bought a home a long time ago, the legal definition of a first-time home buyer is someone who, if you haven't purchased a home in the past 3 years. So that means if I bought a home in 2016 and I want to buy a home again in 2019, the federal government sees you as a first-time home buyer again. And that opens up a lot of incentives, like the down payment programs I mentioned. And that will be sort of the third thing. So like if you're in the what they call, and people can visit our website, ktohome.com, or send me an email at info@ktohome.com. If you're in depending on where you live, well, regardless of where you live, right? A lot of the first-time home buyer programs that give you grants of like $20,000, $30,000. In New York right now, there's a grant for a $40,000 grant. If your income is within 80% threshold of the area median income, you would generally qualify for one of these grant programs. So I know that's a very technical term, but we help you kind of filter through all of that and figure out if you're eligible. And that's what we focus on specifically, to match you to potentially free money that's out there, these government grants. So don't ever let the down payment scare you, closing costs scare you. Like, just find out what you are eligible for, what you qualify for, and then do some research, and then get prepared, like we talked about earlier, to sort of go on that journey. And just the more information the more of a good deal, like Dominic said, you'll get overall.
Nice, thank you. Sandro, 3 gems. How do we get into your seat right there in front of all the pictures? And what'll make us successful?
Which seat? I'm a dual. I'm a real estate agent, and I'm also a lender, portfolio manager. So I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit of everything. So what I would say is one of the gems is people matter. Relationships are important. Treat everybody with respect, and make sure that you keep the relationship first. Dollars will always come and go. Relationships are forever. And you don't know when you're going to be able to collaborate with that person, when that person's going to need you, or when you're going to need them. So I say people matter. Focus on the relationship. When you're doing something, make sure you understand the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to get into this business? What the why is important. Don't just, the why, as Alberto said, it just can't be about the money. It just can't. It's just the rev rate on that, and you're just not gonna be able to outlast it. It's not gonna work. So the why is important. Get into something that you're passionate about, and always focus on the end game. Think about where you're gonna start, but never lose sight of what the future looks like, and look for steps to get there. Start building the steps. And I think I added more than 3 gems, because I'll give you another one. Never stop learning, never stop researching, never stop educating yourself. Because I still do it to this day. I read books about different things. Even though I'm involved with finance, I read about finance all the time, real estate all the time. So never stop learning, and stay focused.
Nice. What are like some of the qualifications I need to get into like your other job, done non-real estate job?
Not the real estate job? The portfolio management?
Yeah, the portfolio management.
Portfolio management, well, it's I like what Dominic said earlier, which is great. Because I do, relationships are key when I'm working with the portfolio. I manage a portfolio that spans across the East Coast of the United States, and I have businesses pretty much in every state. And so the relationships matter. When I speak to them, when I meet with the owners, you know, there's deeper conversations than just, hey, let me look at your financials. What's your inventory? What's your accounts receivables, accounts payable? There's just so much more than that. But what I would say is, you know, the education I have obviously played a role in that. And just the passion for lending. I would say that if you're interested in portfolio management, it would be great to start at a small organization like a CDFI. Begin to learn their smaller programs, because there's a lot of hand-holding with the smaller borrowers. There's a lot of relationship building there. And then you'll learn to service those borrowers. Another thing that I would add is that if you go to the National Development Council, ndconline.org, there's courses that we have. There's one that's called the Economic Development Finance Professional, where in that course you learn how to work with borrowers, analyze financial statements. Really, you learn how to underwrite an entire deal from soup to nuts. And so I think it's very valuable. And that's a good starting point, is to begin to educate yourself there, because that'll give you that level of confidence that you need in order to go to a CDFI and help them run their portfolio and run their loan program.
Nice, thank you, Dominic. So I want to start my own real estate portfolio, right? You know, I grew up in the inner city. I'm ready. Like I just got my PPP money that I could put into, like I could pay myself for a while, so that could help me out. But I also got my stimulus check, and I got my tax returns, and I got a couple grand, and I want to get into real estate to make sure I maximize that. You know, like what are my first steps? How can I be Dominic? You know, in the next 5 years.
Don't buy a car. Don't buy jewelry. Don't buy Gucci. I'm messing with you guys, but hey, you know, that sounds like amazing. Or everything that you have that's coming to you in the, you know, or came to you in the last couple of weeks, with all those positive things. But you know, going back, I always tell everybody, faith. You know, every day listen to positive videos when you wake up in the morning. Control your negativity. Stay around positive people. You know, stay around other business-minded people. You know, try different things to see what you like and what you don't like, right? So in this field, you could be a loan officer, you could be a contractor, you could be an agent, you can be an investor. So you just try the different hats and see which one you like. You know, and once you get your deals, you know, start off like it's like a grade, right? When you go to the 5th grade and then you go to the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, right? So you take a small job and you take a deal, you paint it, you put in some new bathrooms, new flooring, and then you master that. And then after that, you take on a bigger project, right? So now I'm in the new construction business where we're building houses. You know, so, but I didn't start out doing that. You don't want to take a deal that's bigger than what you could handle. And even in all of our businesses, right? Sometimes we have negativity, we have self-doubt, try to control some of that. You know, the biggest success in business is controlling self-doubt. You know, it's crazy, right? You're going in the right direction and then you start doubting yourself and you put the brakes on, but just control it. And then the other thing is, right now, real estate is hot. So everybody's trying to get into it. But like in 2008, when the markets fell, I probably lost like, I don't know, a couple of $1 million. And then everybody left. You know, I remember guys that were in the real estate business, and then I would go to Home Depot and they're working in Home Depot. I would go to a restaurant and they're the business, you know, they're the manager at the restaurant. Or a couple of my friends started working with, you know, different companies. And they would say, hey, you know, what are you working on now? I'm like, I'm still doing real estate. So, you know, the goal is to stay in the field or whatever field you're going to be in, when times are good and when times are bad. And when times are bad, like everything else, right? They turn around and they become good. And then when they're good, they're going to be bad. So if the markets are good, you could go in and learn, but just prepare yourself because, they go up and they go down. The other thing I always recommend is, you need to take some business courses. I'm a firm believer in business courses. I was young when I started my first businesses, but I didn't have the fundamentals, so I kept on failing, and I didn't understand why I kept on failing. I was like 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, and I kept on taking different businesses, but I kept on failing. So I didn't have the fundamentals. So when I went back to college in my, I think I was like 24, 25, I started taking some business courses where they teach you accounting 1, 2, business management 1, 2, psychology, sociology, psychology. So that helped me become a well-rounded person. And then I combined it with my business experience. So I just don't want you guys to go into business or go into real estate and not have the fundamentals. You really need, the college fundamentals in order for you to grow. Right. I'm not saying to go out and get your bachelor's, but at least try to get your associates. And if it's, if it's possible, grab your bachelor's, and if you could go for your master's, cool, but until you feel like where you need it. But go ahead and get your fundamentals on the business side. You get to learn terminology, accounting terminology, business terminology. And when you go into a meeting with a banker, with an attorney, with an accountant, you have the fundamentals, and you walk in with a lot of confidence, and you're ready, you're prepared, to handle a successful business, or real estate portfolio. But go ahead and get those fundamentals.
Nice. Another question we got was, I just got my real estate broker's license. I'm a free agent. Do you recommend I freelance and go find my clients, or should I start like with a company like Century 21, for example, or something like that? Like, what do you guys recommend on that?
Well, most real estate agents are not successful. It's hard. There's a lot of real estate agents in the market right now. So if there's 100 agents, I think like maybe 5 of them are successful. So what you want to do is you want to learn with that 5%. And so you could say, hey, could I work for you? Could I, learn from you? Even if you have to work for them part-time, for like 6 months, just for you to learn and to pick up their energy, because it's all about energy, right? So if you have an agent that has high energy and that's coming into the office and that's looking for deals, and people want to work with people that have high energy, so those are the ones that are going to do really well. And you're going to learn. The other thing that I always tell agents to do is work with investors, right? Because investors, they'll buy 6, 10, 12 properties a year, where a lot of the homeowners buy one house every 5, 10, 15 years. So with an investor, these guys are buying houses, they're selling houses, they know other people that are doing the same thing. So if you could get down with some of the investors, real estate investors, those are the guys that are moving and shaking. They'll introduce you to a network of 4, 5, 6 guys that are buying houses. Those, 4 or 5 guys will buy 20 deals a year. They're buying and they're also selling. So you want to be in that circle. So the homeowner circle is good. It's a little slower, and it takes a little longer to build. But on the other side, it's much faster, and you'll make a lot more money. And you'll learn a lot too from those guys, because those guys are going, they're doing some cool stuff.
So another good question came up. So the rates are down. It was mentioned, Dom, you mentioned it earlier, how property is up really high right now, but rates are really low. So it's like one of those things where, do I hold off and will the rates go up later on and the prices come down, or do I buy now with low rates and high prices?
Well, I don't really care about rates. Rates are insignificant to me. Well, what I always do is, like, I'll give you an example. If I buy a $400,000 deal for 200, who cares about my rate, right? I don't care about my rate, right? I'll take a loan at 7%, a commercial loan or a personal loan or whatever, because I'm getting such a good deal on it. But the goal is to find a good deal. Just find a good deal, and it takes a while to find it. So if you look every day for a really good deal, I think every day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, you'll probably find one or two a year. But that one or two could potentially bring in 50, 100, $200,000 just on one purchase. So, and I'm giving you some facts. Like if you go on my Instagram, I just picked up a deal in Connecticut. I paid like 185 for it. I think it needs like 100, so it's going to be like 285, and my ARV, which is called the after repair value, is 500. So I picked up like $200,000 in equity, and we closed on that, like, I don't know, like 2-3 weeks ago. But they're out there. You just have to continue to look for them every day. If you find a deal that's 500 and it's worth 500, I wouldn't buy that. I don't buy houses at full retail. You want to get that for like 420, 430, 440, something like that. And then you reach out, to the guys that'll help you with a loan. But I look for deals with equity. So try to buy houses that have equity in them.
Nice. So Alberto, kind of the same question. Like if somebody's coming to you right now, like, do you recommend like them waiting on their first home, or just, hey, you got a good rate right now, 30-year fixed rate for 2.5%, but the market, this house just went up 50 grand 2 months ago.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I agree with Dominic. The interest rate doesn't matter too much because that's why there's a refinance market, right? Like it comes up and down right over years. So someone buys a home, someone who bought a home in really before the financial crisis or shortly after, let's use the example of shortly after, they got a great interest rate. If I think that was let's say 2011, 2010, 2011, they got a great interest rate. 2015 comes around, you're buying a house at that point, the market's up. 2016 even, not a good interest rate. So what matters there is the value Dominic is talking about. If you can afford the home and it's a good price and it's a good neighborhood, if it meets all your checklist items, then you should go for it, right? I would definitely, I always discourage people from getting into a bidding war, because you may be up against people who are putting cash offers in, and then if you get into a bidding war and it's like counter offer after counter offer and you're up to like the fourth or fifth one, you're just losing value, right? And then what that means is later on, but if you win the bidding war, you potentially overpaid for the house. Maybe you got the deal, you won something, but that just means when in the future, when it's time to sell, you're going to have less equity, because you potentially overpaid for something. You're going to have a harder time selling it for a premium, right? You may not earn as much on it because you've overpaid from the regular market price. So I think what matters is that you can afford it. Don't overextend yourself. Make sure it's an area that you like, and just kind of stick within, like, can I afford it, and stick within like your pre-approval limits that the bank give you. Most of the time you can never really exceed that anyway, because that's why it's called a bank pre-approval. But those guidelines are there for a reason. So I think that's what's most important.
Nice. So Lissandro, so you're a real estate agent, correct? And it's more of your side hustle. So let's say I just became a real estate agent, or when you first became a real estate agent, what was the first thing you did? Like, what was the first property you sold, and what was the challenge in making that happen?
Well, the challenge is the fact that the market is up. I just got into real estate, so the market is up, and it's as Alberto was saying, there's bidding wars going on. And so I'm working with a couple of investors, and the problem is, you go see a property on Sunday, Sunday evening, that's it. They're under contract. There's just no wiggle room. So you have to be quick. Not only, I mean, your buyer, whoever you're working with, has to be quick. They have to know that this is what they want, and we have to put in an offer. Otherwise, you turn around, that property's gone, which is unfortunate, because it makes it more difficult to find a home. Even though the rates are low, it makes it more difficult to find a home because it's hard to say, but it's really a seller's market. But at the same time, it's weird because it's almost a buyer's market too, because the rates are so low, so people are buying. So we find ourselves in a really strange place where it's beneficial for the buyer and the seller at this point. The buyer because the rates are low and they could afford more house. The seller because they're getting more money for their house. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm not sure if I missed it.
Yeah. So have you sold, like, what was the first experience? Like when you first got out, you got licensed, you did what you did. Like, what was the first experience like selling or buying your first property? This goes for everybody.
So as personally, I've purchased property for myself.
Yeah, personal.
But in real estate, I just started 2 months ago in the real estate business. So I haven't sold or helped someone purchase anything yet at the moment. But one of the first things I did is I looked at my 1,000 contacts, and I started making phone calls immediately. And I said, hey guys, I'm in the real estate business now. And obviously I'm calling folks that I've known for a long time, people that own businesses, people that are investors. So that's one of the first things I did is even before I had business cards, I was making phone calls.
Nice. So
yeah, and I can give a quick example. So and Dominic mentioned earlier, I think it's worth noting again. When you're buying a home, right? Like the first home I bought, it was a sponsor unit, meaning it was being sold by the original developer, and they, I negotiated and they paid for the closing costs. So they gave me a $40,000 credit for a condo here in Brooklyn, and for me, I needed it. I sort of, I think, I can't remember the exact number. Let's call it, let's use the $500,000 number, even though that's not in Brooklyn anymore. But if you think, oh, I can't really afford 500, or I could afford the 500, but I don't have the down payment, those are the instances where you could say, you know what, I'm interested in this house. You could even offer asking price, because of the asking prices, usually there's some wiggle room there. Or you can offer a little bit higher and then get X amount towards your down payment or your closing cost credit. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you structure the deal. So I always go in, negotiate exactly, ask for what you want. And then, sometimes, any good negotiation, you get trade-offs. So that's always like, no matter if it's the first time I buy something, I always ask for what I want. And the worst thing the person could say is no, right? So there's always a lot of flexibility in real estate deals. You just have to know how to ask and make the ask, because if you don't ask, you're never gonna know.
nice. Dominic, same question for you. When you first bought your first property, like what was that experience like? Was there anything like that you took from there that you could say, hey guys, this is what I went through, boom, watch out for this, or this is a good thing?
Well, my first deal, I kind of got lucky. It was my first time. It was my first home. I think I paid $300 for it, $330, something like that. And then I think today is worth like $800-900, something wild like that. Then I just refinanced, and I kept on buying more houses because I thought it was such a cool concept to buy something for like 300 or 330, and then 2 years later for it to be 400, 500. I was like, this is kind of cool. So I just kind of got into the business. And then I think my second deal, I bought a house that was really disgusting, and I bought it for like 100,000, and I spent another 100,000 fixing it. So my cost basis was like 200, and I think I sold that for like 185. So I picked up like 185,000, and I was like, oh, this is wild. So I'm like quitting my job. I ended up quitting my job like right there. So I didn't quit. I think I got fired because I was just so disrespectful to my bosses after making that type of money. But this is a cool business, and but the ultimate goal is to find ugly houses and houses that people don't want, and then get a really good deal on it. You submit your offer, subject to inspection, subject to appraisal. So you get the contract, and then you make sure that you get the property appraised, make sure that it appraises. You want to pick up equity on the purchase, and you want to make sure that it's structurally sound. And then, if those two things work, close on the deal. And even if you don't have any money, you find a good deal, call one of us, call me. I'll get you some money. I have a bunch of investors that are looking to invest. If you could find a $500,000 deal, and you could get it for 250, 300, 350, and even if you don't have any money, I'll put up some money on that deal. We're not going to lose any money, and I'll make sure that I cover you. So don't think that you need to have money to get into the real estate game. You just have to find good deals. That's where the money is. And then once you partner up and you pick up $25,000, $50,000, and then you could use your own money for the following deals. But this is a great business. Take advice from people that are business owners and property owners. Don't take advice from people that are broke. Don't ask people that are broke for advice, or don't ask people that are negative, that are going to kind of bring you down. So just try to stay around positive people and successful people, and you'll be okay. Guys, you there?
Oh, we might have lost.
Oh, I think we lost the host.
Yeah, we'll give him a second to come back.
Yeah, I think we did lose him.
Hey, Lissandra, can't wait to talk to you on Monday or Tuesday.
Let's do it. Yeah, you have my contact, right?
Text me whenever you have a chance.
I'll text that the group one that we have going on. I'll text.
Cool. Send me your contact information.
There we go. Sorry, fellas, we had a little Zoom issue right now. Real quick, we had another question.
We'll give him a second to come back.
Hi, this is Migna. How is everybody?
There we go. We had a quick question.
Can't wait to talk to you on Monday or Tuesday.
Let's do it. Yeah, you have my contact, right?
You guys are still live.
Whenever you have a chance.
You're still live.
I'll text
Yeah, that's an echo.
one that we have going on. I'll text.
Cool. Send me your contact information.
There we go. Sorry, fellas, we had a little Zoom issue right now. Real quick, we had. Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
There we go. Sorry about that. Somebody wants to know, do you have any advice in investing in fire property, as well as, do you have any advice in investing in a fire property as an investor? Are they insurable?
Yeah, I do a lot of those fire damage houses. And I just bought a few of those over the last couple of months. Those are tough. They're not easy. You could get a good price on them on the purchase, but the renovations are really hard. You got to have an architect. You have to have a licensed electrician. You have to have licensed plumbers, contractors. The construction process is not easy. Building materials are very expensive. Labor is expensive. So that's for an intermediate, a builder, investor. Unless you have a lot of money, I would stay away from those. For you to buy a house and that's burned, you could spend, anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 in renovations. So that's for sophisticated investors. Even though what I suggest is you do a few renovations and you build it up, you start graduating from one grade to the next grade, until you get to that level where you can renovate those houses. But I wouldn't initially take one of those deals unless you partner up with somebody that knows how to do that and that has done it before. But to do it by yourself, I think it'll be very challenging.
Nice. All right, y'all. So we're at the wrap-up session. So this is the part where you guys let everybody know where they can find you, your Instagram, your websites, your emails, and if you have like one last words of wisdom, throw it out there. So Dom, we'll start with you.
Dom Realty Group on Instagram. All my info is on there. All my videos are on there. We spend a lot of money on our content, on our videos. So I hope you find them educational. Again, stay around positive people. Don't take advice from people that are broke. Respect them, but don't take their advice. And if you need anything from me, reach out. You could DM me or text me. I always reply, and I'll point you in the right direction.
Nice. Alessandro?
So for the NDC, you can find me at NDC's website, ndconline.org, or you can email me at lkellis@ndconline.org. If you're interested in PPP, if you have questions, send me an email. I'll reach out. On the real estate end, it's email is my first name, Lisandro, Lisandro .kellis@exprealty.com. And you could also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Some last words, I would say, never stop striving, never stop believing, keep educating yourself, and write down your goals, and never stop pursuing them.
Awesome. Thank you. Alberto?
Great. Yes, if please visit, if you're thinking about buying a home, hold on a second.
Somebody's trying to buy a home.
Somebody's trying to buy a home right now.
Yeah, bad timing here. Sorry. So if you're thinking about buying a home, whether it's in the next 3 months or even a year from now, just please definitely reach out to me. You can reach me info@ktohome.com. Our website is just ktohome.com as well. There's a lot of resources for you there. We have a blog post where we have different topics to learn about different programs that are out there, mostly down payment resources. And if you're also an entrepreneur on this call and you're thinking about starting a business or kind of going from idea to launching, I recently did that, and I know a lot of startup resources that I can connect you with. So definitely feel free to reach out to me about that as well. There are a lot of really great programs for entrepreneurs out there these days, especially for people of color. That just, there's a great energy out there, a lot of incentives and a lot of support to, for you to build your network and then ultimately build your business. So I would love to talk to anyone about that as well.
Oh, that just spurred a question right now. So as a small business owner or business owner, would you recommend buying property like with your business?
Oh, with your business, I'm not sure. Maybe you definitely can use your business address and operate your business from home. I don't know if that's the question, or using the business funds to buy your property. Is that part of the question?
It's like if for example, we had one student who had their home that they bought themselves personally, and then 5 years later they sold it to the LLC because they wanted to get more tax benefits or something in that nature. Like, do you recommend something like that?
You know, I'm not sure if I would. I don't know, Dominic, if you have any thoughts on that particular
that's a
scenario.
tax question. So what I usually do is whenever it's a legal question, I usually refer that to an attorney, and that's a tax question. So you should ask your accountant, CPA. You don't want to go to like a real estate agent or an investor or somebody like that and ask them for tax advice. That's equivalent to going to a heart doctor and asking him, on something else on your body. So try to always go to the specialist in the area that you need help with, right? So if you need a roof, go to the roofer. If you need windows, go to a window guy. If you have a legal question, reach out to an attorney, and the same thing with taxes. So go to the specific area that you need help in.
Amazing. Great answer. All right, y'all. We want to thank you guys for coming in. If anybody wants to get in contact with them, you have their info. I'm gonna get it. And I'm gonna post it in a YouTube, the YouTube live down in the description, so you guys can have access to that as well. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell so you stay locked in. Next week we have engineering as part of our STEAM program, so make sure you come join us for that. We have engineering. That's a program that we are, for the month of April, we're doing STEAM learning. And that is going to be in partnership with Omega Phi Beta Foundation. So next week we have All About Mechanical Engineering with Joseph Gulia, and that's starting at 1 p.m. So if you're interested in engineering in that field, come on down. And then the following week, April 10th, we have content creation with Brianna. And then after that, on the 17th, we have Math is Fun with Dr. Andrea. And then after that, on April 24th, we have Let's Talk Science with Dr. Yasmin Daniels. And May 1st, we kick off our entrepreneurship courses. So that's when we start going into how to build your side hustle, how to build your businesses. And every week we have a different topic, like finance, legal advice, logo design, online store building. So May 1st, we start off with logo design and brand building. And don't forget to go visit www.growthandgoals.com and stay up to date. And we will be a part of our newsletter. We have a silk screen printing course coming up where we will teach participating students how to use silk screen machines, how to build a design business, how to build a t-shirt business. And that'll be all live in person over at the Clemente Cultural Center on 107 Suffolk Street. So definitely join that. And also we will send you updates from everything that we're doing. So thank you everybody for coming out. Thank you to our special guests, and looking forward to seeing you guys, and make sure you keep that